Please be seated. Provost Coatsworth, Executive Vice President Madigan, faculty colleagues, alumni, master's candidates, and their families and friends. Good afternoon, and welcome to Convocation for master's candidates in the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. I thank all of you for coming to celebrate the accomplishments of our master's candidates. We honor today a stellar group of students that on commencement this coming Wednesday will join the ranks of our over 40,000 alumni and who will embark on professional and academic careers around the world in the great tradition of Columbia University. Equally important, we also honor today the families and friends of our candidates, and today especially to the mothers among them who have endured with them the rigors of their academic pursuit. Thank you for being so supportive and understanding. I would ask all master's candidates to rise and applaud those friends and family members who have helped them to be here today. The student remarks to the graduating class will be offered by Mr. Eddie Soselkan. Mr. Soselkan graduated from SUNY College at Old Westbury with a degree in sociology and will graduate from Columbia with an MA in American Studies. His research interests focus on issues of class and race within the purview of hip-hop culture. As both a rapper and a graduate student, Mr. Soselkan strives, in his own words, to bridge the chasm in knowledge between the realms of hip-hop and academia. Mr. Soselkan.
Hello, everyone, and peace. Where are we at? No, where's this? Give me 1 second, guys. All right. So, thank you, Dean Alonzo, Provost Coatsworth, Executive Vice President Madigan, members of the faculty, administration, and staff, family, friends, and my fellow graduates, for coming to celebrate the master's graduating class of 2017. And a happy Mother's Day. In a tumultuous world, we should cherish moments like these that serve as harbingers for the realizations of the varied aspirations cloaked under the sea of blue. As I look around this amalgamation of stone and ambition, a curious feeling of bittersweet contention fills my eyes with pride and disillusionment, my lungs with the disconcerting scent of a relinquished friendship. My stint at Columbia has reached its final moments. My time here has been a transformative experience, to say the least. I learned a lot about myself and the world. Amidst the precarious uncertainty of the social, political, and economic moment we call the present, this campus and the friends I've made here have remained a beacon of hope and a bastion of creativity. While I did not spend my free time in clubs on campus, the American Studies Department became my home. Dr. Sandler, the director of my program, was my professor, advisor, and confidant. While my frequent visits were not always announced beforehand, Dr. Sandler listened to my rants and provided me with a much-needed outside perspective on the trials and tribulations of graduate studies. The music department was also receptive to my intrusions as a foreigner to their discipline. I took an ethnographic methods class my first semester with Dr. Fox, who would subsequently become my thesis advisor. I went on to take more music courses and found myself in Dodge Hall often. My cohort in particular is scattered among the many buildings on campus, so finding another departmental home was essential for us due to our interdisciplinary program. However, the freedom of this program is what drew me to Columbia in the first place. I truly enjoyed every class that I took because it was crafted by my eclectic theoretical foundations, culminating in my interdisciplinary research on the hip-hop cipher. This mixture of disciplines provides us with a more comprehensive analysis of the world around us. Our political battles are based on sociological, economic, and psychological perspectives. So as academics, we should strive to reciprocate in turn. Everyone is an ethnographer of their own experience. Reflexivity should be a focal point in every student's education because it helps one grow as a researcher and as a human being. I expected a dearth of humanity on this campus. Inside the hallowed halls of the Ivy League, I imagined a realm of legacies, elitist snobs who knew nothing about the plight of those not born into wealth. I was certainly privileged, but still felt distant from this insulated prestige. I graduated from SUNY College at Old Westbury in 2015 with the first graduating class of over 1,000 students. I went to school with working parents, kids who worked full-time to afford an education, and students struggling with loans. I myself worked 4 jobs during my undergraduate years to keep up with the financial demands. Through it all, I saw the beautiful, painful struggle of human existence. I thought that Columbia would never reveal that side of the human condition. To this day, the students and faculty here are a testament to the true diversity of experience that I hope to encounter. Moreover, moving to Manhattan catalyzed a profound metamorphosis in my worldview. The most significant of these changes was my immersion in hip-hop culture. Navigating the New York underground fulfilled my research goals and allowed me to hone my craft as an MC. While I'm still learning, I would not have fully realized this transformation in my native Long Island. A large part of my research is the impact that hip-hop has had on my life over the last 2 years. It provided a creative outlet, a chance to meet people outside of school, and most importantly, a humanistic philosophy that is unique to hip-hop culture. The community that my rap group creates and maintains is an intimate collective that sincerely speaks to the potential of human nature. I have brought this humanism into my research, my music, my relationships, and my life. I hope that all of you who are graduating today have had similar experiences during your time here. It is with this belief in humanity and the hope I have for this country that I wish the graduating class all the best in their future endeavors. We do not need luck with hard work, persistence, and an open mind. These are the cornerstones of Columbia's spirit and pedagogy. I know that you all have great aspirations for the future, and I have no doubt in my mind that you will all become great leaders and role models in whatever field you choose to inhabit. As for me, I hope to inspire change. Although the path will be filled with success and failures, I'm determined to become president someday. I believe that life experience is much more than the notes you take. I believe that the real world outside of college is not as daunting as people make it out to be. I believe in me, and I believe in you. I believe that anything is possible with the right tools and the knowledge of our ignorance. Be humble in the face of success, proud in the face of adversity, and steadfast to your convictions. Most importantly, be you. Thank you, and congratulations, class of 2017.
Thank you, Mr. Rozalkan. The keynote address will be offered by Professor Sunil Gulati. Mr. Gulati is a senior lecturer in the Department of Economics and serves as president of the U.S. Soccer Federation. He graduated magna cum laude from Bucknell University in 1981 before earning MA and MPhil degrees from Columbia. He is a passionate and popular teacher at the university, president of the Delta Phi Beta Kappa chapter on campus, and has been at the forefront of soccer's growth in the United States in the last 30 years. Professor Gulati.
We recognize the mothers on our left and our right, but in a group of this size, my statistics background tells me there must be some mothers in this group. Are there any mothers in this group? Please stand. You've got to take a bow for us. Come on up. Bravo, bravo. Well done. Provost Coatsworth, Executive Vice President Madigan, members of the faculty, Professor Bernard Salony. There's life lesson number one. Professor Salony is the chair of the economics department. If your boss is in the audience, recognize him, always. And most importantly of all, of course, the graduates, their friends, and their families. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. When Dean Alonso asked me if I'd be willing to speak at today's convocation, I hesitated and replied that it would make much more sense to have a faculty member who taught regularly at GSAS. He sent me a note back. His exact response: "We typically invite speakers who can provide students with insight and inspiration. This year, we decided to go in a different direction." Thank you, Dean Alonso. I'll come back to you in a minute. I thought about it and decided I'd be honored to speak today for several reasons. One, as the dean mentioned, I've got a couple degrees from Columbia, GSAS. Two, some of you, there's a few of you in the audience that were former students of mine in Principles of Economics. Third, I spoke at my high school graduation and then again at my university undergraduate institution at a commencement ceremony, so I thought, why not for the trifecta? And later on today, I'm going to be trying to reach the principal of my elementary school to see if they'll have me. And of course, the most important reason I said yes is this is Columbia, and one never says no to Columbia. Having accepted the invitation to speak, I then turned to the hard part, writing a speech. Although I very much enjoy lecturing and public commentary, especially in my soccer life, I rarely write speeches. And most of my interactions are just that, they're interactions. This today is more or less a one-way deal. Furthermore, most of us, and my guess is most of you, don't recall who spoke at your undergraduate graduations or any other graduations or anything they had to say. So how do you make it memorable? Not easy. The challenge became writing a sort of off-the-cuff, non-speech that would be memorable in a positive way. No need to provide insight or inspiration. Dean Alonso had already taken care of that problem for me. In this preamble, I should mention that I have an advantage over everyone else speaking today, because I didn't write this speech in time to send them a copy. So, always a concern for the administration. You could say anything. So my off-the-cuff plan prevented me from sending my non-speech comments to the dean's office in advance. This led to an interesting idea. The dean is going to speak twice today. He spoke very briefly early, and he's got some closing remarks. I thought, this would be interesting. Why don't I read the dean's speech? It would be memorable for one of two reasons. Either he would come up and have nothing to say, in which case he would look bad and you'd all remember that, or he would be extraordinarily gifted, impromptu, and do what President Clinton did some years ago when his teleprompter broke down and give the speech of a lifetime, and you'd remember all of that. Clearly the first way was the right way to go. But after thinking about this, I asked Dean Solomon, who's seated here next to me. She was my student 30 years ago, believe it or not. She asked me to mention that she was only 4 years old at the time. I asked her, I don't know the dean very well, how would he react to the theft of his speech? How would he react to having to give impromptu words? Her email to me read as follows. So let me understand this. In our most important celebratory event of the year, with the provost and the dean in attendance, your plan is to embarrass Dean Alonso, your host and boss twice removed. Professor Galati, even with the unemployment rate at almost all-time lows, I'd reconsider that plan, especially given your non-tenured position with the university. Okay, none of that is true unless you consider alternative truth true. What? Imagine how good it'd be if it was late night. Before I try to live up to the dean's request to do something other than be inspirational and provide insight, let me address the parents for a minute. All of you are very, very proud of your kids today, of your adult kids today, as well you should be. And this is a day where no one should be able to tell you, yeah, but they're not as good as you think. They're extraordinary. A lot of what I do in my soccer life, when we have millions of registered players, is to try to tell parents, okay, just because Tommy can kick the ball 4 straight times up in the air doesn't mean he's going to be in the Olympics. And you should take it easy, let him just play and so on. Don't put so much pressure on them and whatnot. I have an 11-year-old, or she was 11 last year, 12 this year. So I went to her track meet last year. She plays soccer and also runs track. And in this first track meet I had been in, and the first one she had run in, she won the 800 meters. From start to finish, she led the race. Great. On the way home, I asked my wife, why don't you drive today? And she said, okay, I'll drive. Meanwhile, in the drive home, I spent most of the time on the internet trying to find the age group national records for the 800 meters for 11-year-olds. It's okay to take great pride and expect nothing but extraordinary things from our children. All right, on to the serious stuff. More often than not, I get my insight and inspiration from my students in everyday dealings. And you're going to hear about some of those, including one that happened about an hour ago. Not one of my students, but one of your classmates. Let me give you a few case studies that are fresh in my mind about some of those dealings and which have taken place relatively recently. Some years ago, a former student of mine came by my office. She had an undergraduate degree from Columbia and a master's degree from a very prestigious school on the West Coast. And she came in because she didn't have a job at the time. And she said, you know, I just expected with a degree from Columbia and this other school, I'd have a job. And she immediately followed that with, you know, God, that sounds so elitist. I don't mean to sound elitist. And I said, that doesn't sound elitist. Fortunately, this was at a time where a particular vice presidential candidate had made it perhaps the fashion not to have gone to a terrific school. It's okay to be proud of this place, of your accomplishments. It's absolutely right to be proud of your accomplishments and of this university. There are days where I've given a talk and said, today, literally 2 yards from where I am, is the center of the universe, sundial at Columbia. And that theme sort of goes, well, sundial is the center of Columbia is the center of New York is the center of the United States is the center of the world, of course, is the center of the universe, Copernicus notwithstanding. I don't think we need any more people, whether it's here in Washington, telling us that the United States is the center of the universe these days. But today, it is the center. Today is the center of the universe for all of you, and you're to be commended for that. So life wisdom number 2, be proud of your accomplishments, here and elsewhere. Several months ago, I sent an email to another former student. 25 years ago, she graduated from SEPA. And back then, she was thinking about what she wanted to do with her life, very puzzled, confused, concerned, and I gave her a book. And the name of the book, many of you are familiar with it, What Color is My Parachute? Written by a guy named Richard Bowles, who passed away some months ago. And I hadn't talked to this woman in 25 years, but I tracked her down, the way we all do now, on LinkedIn, and sent her a note and said, if you are the same blank blank that you were, then I was just thinking about this book and so on. To my great surprise and pleasure, she wrote back a few days ago. And let me read you her email. What a great treat to find a message from you. Side life message here. There's nothing faculty like more than hearing things like that from former students. Well, perhaps one other thing, which is, hey, professor, you know those friends and family shares I gave you at startup, they're now worth $600 million. Computer folks, feel free to hand those out afterwards. So the rest of her message. What a great treat to find a message from you. I was ahead of you. I thought of the 4 days before Bowles' death when I picked up the new edition for my eldest son. I was immediately awash in thinking about that time when all paths seemed equally open and risky. Now that I have my own young man trying to figure out the working world of adults, I find myself falling often into mental or perhaps emotional time travel. Life lesson 3, uncertainty is okay. Uncertainty is okay. Many of you don't know what's next. That's okay. And literally an hour ago, as I was walking here, I ran into one of the graduates today in global politics, and he was dressed, and I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "Here." I told him I was speaking today. I said, "What's next?" He said, "I'll be interning at the UN." And I said, "What happens?" And he said, "And hopefully something will come of that." It'll come of that. You don't need to hope very much. It'll come of that. But you don't need to know all of that today. Some years ago, 4 years ago, I had a student here who was introduced to me by the admissions folks. And we talked for a while. He hadn't decided on Columbia. And he outlined what he wanted to do and some of what he had done. And as a 16-year-old, he had started an orphanage and funded it in his home country in Asia. And we talked about why. I won't get into the specifics. And he talked about what he wanted to do with his life. And he comes from a very, very affluent family. And I said when I met his father, and we didn't do it in English, we did it with a translator, I said, "I'm not sure if your son is going to do the sorts of things Bill Gates did in the first half of his life, but I'm pretty sure he's going to do the sorts of things that Bill Gates has done in the second half of his life." This is as a 16-year-old he did it. Generosity and empathy aren't a function of age, but of your own spirit. Important lessons along the way. On Thursday, 3 days ago, which is one of the reasons I can't write these speeches very far in advance because I rely on events of the last few days. On Thursday, I was in Bahrain, and I met a young man who came up and introduced himself to me. He graduated last year from Columbia Business School, and he was involved in sports, and we were at a sports convention, so to speak. He had never taken a course that I teach here in sports, including at the business school. So both had spent multiple years on campus, never had met him, never had walked over, and now we met in Bahrain. I asked him what was going on, what was life. He had gotten married recently to a Bahraini. I said, "Where did that happen? How did you meet her?" "At Disneyland." So statisticians in the audience, 2 Bahrainis, never met each other, roughly a domestic population, a home citizen population of about 600,000, and they met at Disneyland. And I had never met him here, but we met in Bahrain. Don't underestimate the value of luck, kismet, serendipity, and all of this. Those things are on your side, too. Those things are on your side. But meeting this young man, and he was in local dress. And I wouldn't have recognized him if I knew him very well, frankly, in local dress. Led me to talk a little bit about a movie I saw on the way home. This is now Friday. We still have stuff that happened this morning that I'm going to talk about, so no worries on that. And what was that movie? Hidden Figures. And for this young man in local dress, he certainly would have been a hidden figure for me. But my flight was coming back through Dubai. And what's the issue these days? And it may be extended, as many of you know, that there are 7 countries around the world in which you cannot carry a computer on if you're traveling to England or the United States, a computer or a laptop. And I had a computer and a laptop because my flight changed, so there's a long line, and they take your things and put them in a basket and so on and so forth. And there was a long line on Emirates, a terrific airline. And a gentleman behind me was very upset because it was clearly going to take 5 or 10 or 15 minutes longer to get on the plane than he had hoped. And finally, after being less than friendly with a couple of people trying to get us all moved along very quickly, he said to someone who was clearly South Asian in front of him, who was working, "Whose rules are these anyway?" Implying, of course, that the domestic, in this case, in Dubai, they had set up rules. And I looked at him, looked back at him and said, "There are rules." And I'm not sure if he understood what I meant by our rules, so I had to clarify. I said, "They're American rules." Very embarrassed. Hidden Figures, because the 4 or 5 or 6 people that were working that day filling boxes were all South Asian, as is roughly half the population of Bahrain. Hidden Figures. Whose rules are these anyway? Wow. Tolerance, another lesson along the way. Pretty important. It's a complicated world. Hidden figures are everywhere. On that movie, and it's a movie filled with inspiration. John Glenn, going to the moon, so on and so forth, and obviously issues of race and whatnot. There is a terrific line, and I've been thinking about that line quite a bit. It's when a woman in the movie says to one of her African-American counterparts the following: "You know, despite what you all think, I have nothing against you all." This is 1961. And the response is, "I know." Pause. "I know that's what you probably believe." Now think about that. In any walk of life, when we say, "I'm doing my best," well, I know, versus I know that's what you probably believe. "I'm not a racist." I know. "I'm trying." Any one of those things, a whole lot of difference. Tolerance. And then I've been thinking a little bit about some things that I say to my first, second, third, and fourth year students in Principles of Economics at the end of the semester in kind of a last lecture setting. And I'm going to steal a couple of things from those. And I'm a little bit wary about doing that because a couple of students have come back and sat in on that last lecture a second time. And one of them came up to me and said, "Hey, you know, some of the things you said were the same as they were last year." And I said, "Yes, that's because the things that influence me and shape the way I live my life don't change semester to semester." Most of them don't. A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, the worst of times. Think about Aleppo, and think about Munich. Why Munich? Because those incredible pictures of people showing up and being welcomed on trains and elsewhere. That's the world you're walking into. And when people say we live in interesting times, I don't actually believe that, because everyone can say that of every generation. We're always living in interesting times. In sports, we have this important quality in athletes, and that's a tolerance for pain. How tolerant are you in pain? Can you play through an injury? And that's a great attribute for an athlete. When you're running a marathon, can you get through that 21st mile and so on? It seems to me a much more important attribute is intolerance. Right? Intolerance in the pain of others. Intolerance in the pain of others. That sounds like a really very important characteristic for all of you, all of us, to live our lives by. Intolerance in the pain of others. And finally, let me tell you, I don't like May. I don't like Mondays during the summer, or Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, or Fridays. I love September. I love Mondays during the school year, not so much Fridays. Because it is never the case that I walk into a classroom and I'm not happy about being there or enjoying what I'm doing. That's a pretty good way to live life. No, don't live on Park Avenue. That's okay. But walking in and doing what you do and enjoying it and being passionate about it every day. And in my other life in the soccer world, yes, there's some tough days there, particularly the last year or two. We've been on the news a little bit too much, and we lose some games every now and then. But in my teaching life, there is not a day that I don't love it, that I'm not passionate about it. So does being passionate about something guarantee you that you're going to be happy? No. And the stats majors and those of you, and the two biggest groups, the stats and the quantitative methods and social sciences, will tell you, that's actually bigger than the stats. Where are the stats folks anyway? And the quantitative folks, where are you? Smaller but louder. One more time with the stats folks. Well, okay. It won't guarantee you happiness, but it'll surely increase the probability. So in closing, I wish you all the very, very best, in the hope that you will passionately practice compassionate intolerance in everything you do. Good luck. The world's waiting for you. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Gulati, I think. We now arrive at the central point of the ceremony, the presentation of the master's candidates. We ask you to come forth as we call your name in recognition of your individual accomplishments. Betty Matias, Student Affairs Officer of Columbia University's Chinese Students and Scholars Association, will read the names of the master's candidates as they approach the podium.
Receiving a Master's of Arts in African American Studies, Alejandro McGee. Vardilla Duterrio. Receiving a Master's of Arts in American Studies, Tiffany Babb. Emmeline Fitzand. Kim McNeeman. Sarah Perlman Shapiro. Hannah Neville. Edis Ozelkan. Priyanka Prashad. Meredith Kiefer. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Anthropology, Michelle Gwyn Lee. Yi Chia. Marwa Ishan Faki. Colin Petit. Melanie Deschamps. Terrence Sean Tan. Anne Vandenberg. Shiza Ahmed. Malvina Kefalas. Daniel West. Basak Araz. That was really, sorry. Receiving a Master's of Art in Art History and Archaeology, Laura Palucha.
We're missing one. Where's one?
Manubu Yagagi. Sarah Eisen. Aaliyah Benner. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Biological Sciences, Alexander Aloy. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Biomedical Informatics, Li Yuanju. Yi Xuan Guo. Shruti Kadia. Darwin Chen. Xing-Yi Li. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Biotechnology, Amanda Che. Catherine Helen Maville. Andrea Bretter. Patricia Bolsaka. Nelish Ardeshna. Rami Katkukta. Moti Shritri. Mehmet John Apak. Nutawa Supantarida. Denarius Frazier. Katie Delgado. John Crocker. Xing-Yi Guo. Bei Shi Wang. Li Guo Zhang. Jia Ye Li. Song Kai-Hu. Diana Carrillo Punces. Sue Park. Christopher Hu. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Art History and Archaeology, Roxanne Smith. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Biological Sciences, Daisuke Izaki.
You don't have to say this
Okay.
because they keep rapping.
Stella Kim. Elsa Ouyang. Maitreyi Raman. John Brito. Sarah Al-Azam. Anastasia Barnett. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Chemistry, Heng Rui Liu. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Classical Studies, Deborah Sokolsky. Eleni GSAS. Nicholas Mazar. Amelia Eichengreen. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Classics, Lance Domas. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Climate Society, Carolyn Balk. Sovik Chatterjee. Yiting Cheng. Davern Cheng. David Kolbus.
Read a little faster.
Okay, Holly Davison. Alexandra Harden. Eric Jun. Carissa Lim. Jing Ang Ling.
Wait, this
Oh, sorry. Benjamin Macaroni. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Earth and Environmental Sciences, Brianna Molad.
is Climate and Society.
Receiving a Master's of Arts in Climate and Society, Joanne Norris. Lydia Scher. Alice Stevenson. Sarah Toe. John Vavaramo. Claudia Villar Lehman. Allison Villegas Roman. Jia Yu Xu. Qi Feng Yang. Yu Rongyu. Ye Zhang. Zhou Zhou. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Earth and Environmental Science, Laura Gruenberg. Receiving a Master's of Arts in East Asian Languages and Cultures, Ke Hu. Yu Cheng Zhao. Xiao Zexu. Yi Zehu. Tening Yiwong Dongchun. Li Yao Chen.
You're doing great.
Qie Yi Liu. Monica Cho. Do Hee Kang. Jun Wan Dai. Mihoko Wheeler. Leroy Spencer. Receiving a Master's of Arts in East Asia Regional Studies, Ji Ye He. Meng Shi Ju. Xin Ran Liu. Nicholas Liu. Jia Tseng. Cheng Yiming. Andrew Patrick Nelson. James Matthew Novak. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Ecology, Evolution, and Environmental Biology, Stephanie Sardellis. Andrew Michael Budsock. Grace Mooser. Brandy Cannon. Nini Ukba. Wendy Flores. Margaret O'Brien. Eleanor Diamant. Yuki Abba. Trisha Gunther. Alexander Paikus. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Economics, Wen Hao Gui. Noreen Rashid. Yi Ming Xu. Zijia Fang. Li Yang. Jia Xuanyan. Yu Luo. Zi Qihang. Le Ting Li. Lin Wang. Xiao Zhen Zhang. Hao Ju, Tian Yi Chen.
Statistics.
Receiving a Master's of Arts in Statistics, Meng Jia Ni. Yi Shi Sun, Yue Zhou. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Economics, Yu Tonghu. Yu Ming Liu. Mayuka Kahara. Di Bian. Ling Qi Zhang. Yi Ming Guang. Tai Chi Wang. Travis Duwalter. Ryan Zamoripa. Esther Yan. Jonathan Ko. Lu Chengpen. Wei Xiangheng. Grace Kong. Shatek Kemakongke. Yu Ping Zhai. Xian Li. Joshua Chen. Linda Wu. Henry Zhao. Beatriz Saharan Rache de Almeida. Brendan Yum. Jake Marobi. Vidushi Jayathilok. Siddharth Gokhale. Nidhi Marti. Jaitirame Sabat. Yu Menggu. Hyoso Kim. Jun So Ming. Iswari Subraha Yam Balan. Ye Jin Kim. Han Yu. Grace Pan. Receiving a Master's of Arts in English Literature, Rathik Ashokan. Maxine Arenit. Olivia Ball. Amalia Francisco. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Film Studies, Nicholas Bollinger. Briand Gentry. Anne Moore. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Global Thought, Nikki Ehrlich. Julia Wong. Nicolette Jones. Anna Broadbent. Martha Ching. Alicia Wong. Leslie Goldman Franco. Jeremy Ang. Haibi Chang Jiong. Dinesvara Erlanga. Sean Miklilunk. Mancini Udorji. Christopher Lin. Omar Almutawa. Sarah Larson. Emanuele Wiley. Ding Wang. Alex Cabral. So Jeong Kim. Naila Althani. Nicole Pesajovich. Elena Ho Young Lee. Receiving a Master's of Arts in History, Robin Reich. Receiving a Master's of Arts in History and Literature, Ethan Darden. Serge Gonza. Isiah Kazi. Lauren Clark. Ruxar Nisara Lee. Juthaporn Elizabeth Gatertorn. Zainub Bailun. Marina Kumskova. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Human Rights Studies, Alan Williams. Marika Kermi. Christine Bilsky. Nakia Pierre. Chinodie Utunye. 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 Grace Bea, Melody Mills, Ariel Garfinkel, Roya Pakadzad, Heather Galbraith, Rose Kutz, Ishita Petkar, Elizabeth Pattison, Ryan Heeman, Abher Garwaha, Yu Jong Kim, Mariana Gonzalez, Molly Stevens, Michelle Manzoor Soda, Shaina Halywell, Maria Rohani, Kimberly Cohen, Hannah Yara Sahar, Matthew Rulo, Giselle Kasim, Sierra Maycraft, Fatima Aslam, receiving a Master's of Arts in Islamic Studies, Hina Sahar Munirudin, receiving a Master's of Arts in Italian, Christina McGrath, Jenny Clark Scheif, receiving a Master's of Arts in Latin American and Caribbean Regional Studies, Luis Lopez, Florencia Orlandoni, Renee Suzette Lauren, Giovanna Maselli, Enrique Lopez, Christy Strongman, receiving a Master's of Arts in Mathematics with a specialization in the Mathematics of Finance, Kevin Jones, Chang Hun Lee, Hamza Benshki, Ning Qiao, Zhui Nang Tang, Jia Wei Peng, Jun Xian Chen, Pei Dong Ren, Wei Yan, Ming Qi Wang, Yu Shi Li, Zong Jiang, He Ju, He Shang Liu, Lin Hui Kong, Lu Shan Li, Mian Yun Liu, Jin Zhou, Wei Jiali, Xi Er Zheng, Shi Lian Du, Christopher Li, Xin Huang, Zheng Kai Feng, Wang Liao, Xi Zhou, Duo Duo Chen, Xin Yue Pan, Meng Ying Flora Zhang. Oh, sorry.
Just go through it. They're out of order.
Hui Jun Zheng.
New department.
Oh, I think the person. Okay. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Middle Eastern, South Asian, and African Studies, Macaulay Singer Milnes. Yara Suma.
New department.
Okay. Receiving a Master's of Arts in History, Alvaro Miranda.
New department.
Receiving a Master's of Arts in Modern European Studies, Fen Cheng. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Museum Anthropology, Caroline Blank. Alice New Jam Teixeira. Caitlin Seller. Kimberly Snow. Marisa Arispi. Noel Farah Abushlia. Catherine Sabella. Veronica Jacobs Edmondson. Shannon Stewart. Alexandra Carpa. Christina Chavez. Francesca Saldan.
Oral history. Not history.
Okay. Hu Kimu Abdul Fattah.
Oral history.
Receiving a Master's of Arts in Oral History, Fanny Garcia. Ailim Deli Kunli. Stephen Palmer. Yu Tong Wang. Dina Asfaha. Xiao Yan Li. Emma Cortland. Robin Miniter. Monica Lu. Fernanda Espinosa. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Philosophical Foundations of Physics, Kathleen Tatum. Receiving a Master of Arts in Modern Art, Critical and Curatorial Studies, Mary Onunziha. Georgia Horn. Taylor Fish. Emil Alexander. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Philosophy, E. Zhang. Natalia Rogash. Peter Zhi. Gian Marco Greschi. Elizabeth Ben. Luke Schammel. Philip Yor. Antonin Garcia Juvite. Yeah. Florent Tollet. Nathan Jones. Inessa Brasiski. Zhou Fang Huang. Paige Bankowski. Catherine Cohn. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Political Science, Bendar Asiad. Natasha Rodriguez. Stina Kraus Olsen. Jeffrey Lim. Jung Hao Lester Lee. Gabriel Neo. Alexander Tomas Tan. Adam Roberts. Adam Goldstein. Claire Abrahams. Keegan Tatum. Guillaume Alusong. Zachary Lim. Wasim Somro. Mark Rothrock. Zhao Wenguo. Chen Tuoju. Michael Haupt. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Quantitative Methods in the Social Sciences, Meredith Meeks. Michelle Grushko. Sarah Vasquez Izadi. Rebecca Portman. Nigel Zijiang Po. Peter Darsh. Sindura Polok Butu. Yu Ting Cheng. Yue Long. Yi Si Zhao. Danny Chen. Er Yue Ju. Ting Na Ma. Wei Lan Huang. Wen Fu. Arnold Loud. Stephen Bronder. Zhi Yuan Chen. Jessica Kim. Daniel Kronovet. Stephen McAlpine. Jennifer Kanjona. Erica Kilbride. Ling Bai. Yu Kyung An. Hao Liu. Miriam McKinney. Zi Yan Chen. Angela Ryu. Pedro José Perez. Afna Salam. David Gustavo Suárez. César Eduardo Montiel Olea. Michael Jargon, Alexandra Blasiris, Brandon Wolf. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Religion, Chelsea Naylor. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Russia, Eurasia, and East Europe Regional Studies, Jocelyn Meekins. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Russian Translation, Elaine Wilson. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Sociology, Marva Kermadi. Stephanie Cha Ramos. Winnie Xuen Ju. Luke Svasti. Yi Xuan Zhao. Yao Shi. Amy Wang. Gina Lam. Andrew Byram. Jamie Feng Yuan Su. Erin Elizabeth Hughes. Jane Wang. Rima El Orfali.
New department.
Receiving a Master's of Arts in South Asian Studies, Salva Hawk. Aditi Deshmukh. Labiba Ali. Receiving a Master's of Arts in Statistics, Cheng Ying Gao.
Here's the home stretch. These are the easy ones.
Peng Cheng Jiao. Yuan Jiao. Liang Yue Guo. Chao Qian. Feng Lingxia. Xiao Hang Zhang. Yan Xi Chen. Jing Jing Feng. Tian Sheng. Yun Yi Zhang. You Zhu Liu. He Xiu Ye. Yi Liu. Xuan Zhang. Jia Yi Wang. Zhao Yanjing. Jia Ling Zhou. Andrew Malaris. Eric Zhang. Zachary Chen. Lina Li. Yihua Liu. Ming Hao Dong. Jia Hui Tang. Ya Ting Sun. Ming Hao Dai. Jia Yi Zhong. Zi Wei Meng. Ray Sun. You Ran Xu. Tianying Karen Yu. Yue Wang. Fei Zhao. Yi Ren Wan. Xue Chun Sun. Ge Er Chen. Shu Li Song. Yu Han Sun. Meng Yuan Tao. Tian Zhao Xie. Cecilia Lu. You Zhao. Zhao Yu Zhou. Xiao Wang. Yu Bao. Sirui Sun. Dana Guan. Winston Wang. Xiaoyu Zhou. Shiyu Zhuang. Li Tong Wen. Wen Jing Zhou. Zhan Zhao. Dan Mo Wang. Yue Li. Peng Fan Li. Si Yuan Yao. Tie Yang Sun. Zi Xingjing. Yu Qinhuang. Hao Chen Sun. Lu Yuanshi. 陶陶、金林琛、伊纯念、金木、林康峰、吴个周、润万、于晨世、严晃、长柳、新宇宙、尹香高、关仲宇、鲁旺、王一丈、殷成、一凡丈、金英洲、辛豪固。
This is gonna read her. I think it's her.
Stephanie Tokpik、
Thank you.
叶云晨、辛银宇、天元成、柯文章、戴其章、Zachary Nugget、I Tian Nugget、柯新布、薛银晨、苏林王、程丽、小范记、苏迷长、一周、查俊周、包顺、小鱼王、文航宝、
We've got like 30 left.
韦吃药、石涛乱、齐华高、石鱼王、宜称王、宁王、
Tell her.
狄代、李富学、吉文友、韩翠、西路、昆凡。Okay. This one matches. Juan Sanchez, Diego Sanchez Azcarate,
They're just crossing.
Juan Pablo Campos Gutierrez, Ikan Shu Setia, Duan Hong Gao, Yu Tongyan, Jin Wei Li, Yan Rang Wang, 敖元辽、敖六、林六、自豪王、毕月黄、以为孙、卡米尔纳什瓦迪恩、赤力、葛阳宇、伊尼坦、
Last 3.
伊林车 ，sorry， 袁元王、韩明鹤。
Thank you.
No, this is better.
You can go line up this completely off. All right, you can start heading them. Okay. Or actually, she's on the stage. You can sit down. Thank you.
It's just your arms are like.
And now, my parting remarks to the graduating class. During your stay in this institution, we have endeavored to train you how to think, write, and speak like a member of an academic field, as a participant in an intellectual community defined by the mores and conventions of your discipline, leaving in the process little time or room for much else. Indeed, looking back at the foundational myth of the modern university, one can detect readily a desire to place the institution in a location of exception with respect to the social, as an enterprise that derives its force and reason for being from its insularity, from its distance from societal concerns. This is part and parcel of the apprenticeship model of graduate education and explains to a large degree the sense of loneliness that we have all felt at one time or another while in graduate school, as if we all had to recreate for ourselves and within ourselves the principal tenets of our chosen discipline, and thus engage in a project of intellectual self-fashioning that necessarily had to keep the world at bay. Given the effort that you have expended in achieving this goal, you would be justified in thinking that the triumph that you celebrate today surely should be enough. And yet, the Spanish philosopher José Ortega y Gasset wrote in the early 20th century an aphorism that comes to mind to describe what I'm hoping to convey to you as you leave this institution. Yo soy yo y mi circunstancia, y si no la salvo a ella, no me salvo yo, which can be loosely translated as, I am myself and my circumstance, and if I do not redeem it, I cannot redeem myself. Since November of last year, most academic institutions in the nation have been buffeted by the unexpected outcome of a general election whose principal ideological contours appear to issue from a version of this country that is felt by some of us to be unsettling and unfamiliar. I do not want to challenge or bemoan the results of that election here, but to invoke it as an object lesson for all of us. Using the very analytical tools that you have learned at Columbia and which we live by, we should endeavor to understand the phenomenon down to its root causes. But perhaps more important is for us to be chastened by the very surprise with which we received this event. For in hindsight now, all of the pieces were readily available to us that would have allowed us almost to predict, as opposed to being surprised by, the results of the last election. The indifference at the radical concentration of wealth and resulting income inequalities, the disregard for a lowered standard of living for many of our middle-class citizens, the shrugging of shoulders at the seemingly wanton police killings of black citizens, the lack of concern with the pollution of the public sphere with misinformation, the conundrum that, on the one hand, our current economic system has ushered in the wondrous, wondrous world in which we live, but that it also has a continual propensity to naturalize inequalities and to produce narratives of success about individual effort that justify those inequalities. All of these circumstances point to the loss of our sense of the commons, of the belief that we have some responsibility to our brethren, and that our fundamental assumption should be that what is best is what is good for the largest number of people. Had we allowed ourselves to see these phenomena, we would not have been staggered by the events of November. The university may have been created to keep the world at bay outside its walls, but we should not allow that mythological foundation to determine our relationship with our surroundings. The very distilled concentration, the monomaniacal attention to your intellectual projects that has allowed you to be where you are today is a decided strength. but it can also lead imperceptibly to a withdrawal from the world that is not that different in its effects from outright neglect. Struggling against the insular experience in which you had to immerse yourself to be successful in graduate school will perhaps be the most taxing, the most demanding task you will undertake in the next chapter of your life. Everything that you have learned at Columbia will only acquire its full significance when you are able to articulate its meaning for the commons. Hence, in spite of the requisite headlong plunge into our disciplinary milieu, we must never lose sight of the larger social context that will endow our work with its ultimate significance. We are, as a society, at peril of losing that sense of responsibility toward the common good, without which our work will be diminished, but more important, without which no understanding or application of justice may sustain itself. Your studies have endowed you with powerful analytical tools and equally effective powers of persuasion, and you should use them to protect the health of the social compact, to strengthen the resilience of our common bonds. Strive to be happy as an individual, but always keep in mind Ortega's admonition that if you do not also endeavor to redeem your circumstance, your own fulfillment will be in jeopardy. Never lose sight of the fact that many persons, even absolute strangers, have contributed to this personal success of yours that we celebrate today, and that the best way to acknowledge that debt is through your renewed commitment to the essential business of being human among and alongside other human beings. We arrive then at the end of this magnificent ceremony. Go forth to be our representatives and emissaries to the world, and all of us at Columbia will rejoice in your inevitable achievements. Make us and your relatives and friends prouder still about you than we are today. Will the candidates please stand so that we may give them a final round of applause? You are all invited, candidates, friends, and family, to a champagne reception immediately following the ceremony at Avery Plaza under the tent. I ask all of you, though, to wait until after the faculty and the candidates have ascended the low library steps before exiting. Thank you.